Valley Scottish Rite podcast. Houston Valley Scottish Rite building is just a stone throw away from the NRG Stadium where the Houston Texans play. And of course, with the golden microphone, I'm your host, Brother Jason Reese, 32nd degree, KCCH, and member of the Houston Valley Scottish Rite. Greetings, brothers and guests. This month's episode will be about the double-headed eagle. Why does the Scottish Rite use it as a symbol? What does the symbol mean? Where did it come from? And so that's what our topic today. And we have our guest host today, Brother Saunier, 32nd degree and member of the Houston Valley Scottish Rite. How are you doing, brother?
Oh man, pretty good, pretty good. Blessed to be here. Raining a little bit outside, but I made it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, with Texas has been plagued with rain
Yes, sir.
this summer so far. So let's get into it. So I guess what I'll kind of start off with here is what our contemporaries, what we know about the eagle. Houston. The Scottish Supreme Council was formed in 1801, established in Charleston, South Carolina. Came up with the double-headed eagle as its symbol. They got it from, or at least what we're told, is they got it from the Royal Secret, the Order of the Royal Secret, which why Stephen Moran was brought overseas through Jamaica. It was a 25-degree system, and the last degree of that order was the Knight Kadosh, or the Knight of the White and Black Eagle. And so today we're going to talk about the symbolism behind it. It's an ancient symbol. What's interesting about it, where a couple of people have tried to link it, is so the Grand Constitutions of 1786 for Freemasonry was authorized and approved by Frederick the Great. Frederick the Great crest was the double-headed eagle. So I can see a link there where they're like, okay, the Charleston guys, the Supreme Council that formed, they're like, hey, we want to connect it to Stephen Moran's, the Royal Secret, and he got his from the Constitutions or something. I can see kind of like a trail through there, but we don't have anything in writing. Have you heard anything? Have you read anything?
I've read quite a bit, but where was Frederick the Great from? Do you know?
Frederick the Great. So Frederick the Great.
And I asked that question because of something that I had read about a different spin that I had on it. But I want to let's see
Well,
where he
yeah,
was from.
he was the former king of Prussia, and so it's and I've heard a lot of scholars say, well, it's really not a connection between the Scottish Rite and the Frederick the Great. It's almost like the Templars and Masonry. That they evolved to us. But anyways, well, what do you got? You tell me what you've got.
So when I look at the double eagle, immediately, and I do not know for the life of me why my mind goes here, but think about catch the uh the medical staff, if you will, right?
Hmm.
The intertwining of snakes, and then it goes to the top, and at the top it has the two wings. And of course, the Scottish Rite emblem, the double eagle, does not have a staff of any sort, which is why I cannot for the life of me think about why that's what I thought of, but that is what I thought of. And that finds its, well, I'm not going to say origin, but slight origin in the staff of Hermes. And Hermes is also known as Hermes Trismegistus, which is Hermes the thrice great. And so we also know that Hermes is also juxtaposed with Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, who also had a staff. His did not have wings on it, but it did have the intertwining snakes that go to the top. So I did a little looking into what the staff of Thoth was, or was his Kemetic name, I guess you could say, and why the two snakes? Like, what does that have to do with anything? And so from it, it says, in other cultures as far flung as ancient Greece and Egypt and indigenous North America, snakes symbolize fertility, rebirth, renewal, and even immortality.
Hmm.
And again, him being the god of wisdom, and especially as 30 seconds and 30 thirds are, it can be looked at as because they have reached the top of the system that they would have a certain amount of wisdom that somebody in the Blue House would not have attained just yet. And then I looked up what is the relevance, or what does the eagle symbolize? It also symbolizes courage, strength, and again immortality. So I found that to be very interesting, that how the staff of Hermes, the wings at the top, could symbolize immortality and power and strength and authority, as well as eagle. And it's also interesting that isn't the eagle like it is like the bird of North America?
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is kind of a side topic is, Benjamin Franklin, the American eagle or the bald eagle rather, the symbol of America. Benjamin Franklin didn't like. He wanted the turkey. That the turkey was more noble, and he like if you read, there's actually a paper he wrote about how horrible he thought the bald eagle was. Like he was like dead. Like I hate the bald eagle. How about the turkey? Can you imagine America doing the turkey gobblers? I mean, it's just. The bald eagle, the eagle's strength. I've also found some stuff, where the double-headed eagle specifically. Even if you go to Jerusalem in front of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And for those who don't know what the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is, it's the place where Christians believe where Jesus was crucified and buried and rose. But on the floor, and I actually saw there's a double-headed eagle that the Templars put in place. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, the eagle, the double-headed eagle is a bird believed to transmit messages received from God into the sky to the kings and people on the earth. I mean, there's this double-headed eagle has been around for a long time.
Right, and it even says that it goes back into ancient Mesopotamia.
Yes, I saw that as well. Um, and if we go to Greek, here is the concept of dual eagles also existed in ancient Greece. Zeus, Jupiter, was said to let the two eagles fly from the east to the west of the world, and they would eventually meet in Delphi, proving it as the center of the world. So this double eagle, I don't know how Morin came across a double eagle. We there's so much I guess adopting it as a symbol for the Scottish Rite. I don't know if we know. The research I found, there's nothing in writing like from John Ham of South Carolina in 1801. We chose this eagle for this reason. It's like an almost, well, Morin did it, we're gonna keep it, and then that's all we know.
Right.
And so I guess today all we can do is I guess assign meaning to it, I guess, for our own personal um, light and knowledge to help us grow. I like the idea what you were saying, where it was uh what were you saying about the symbolism dating back and the growth and the looking back, the two heads of even like male and female, the yin and yang, so to speak. I don't know, it just the different things about it. And also grabbing a sword. It's also this not just the double eagle, it's the eagle grabbing a sword. And so I looked into that as well. And for those Masons out there, supposedly this eagle is using the grip of the lion's paw grabbing the sword. I've read that as well. And then the phrase beneath it is the motto for the 32nd degree. Pardon me if I mispronounce some of these words. Face meo in Deo esti, which means my hope is in God. And so,
It's funny that you say that,
okay.
because also going back to Thoth and Hermes' staff, in ancient Egypt, the snake represented royalty and divinity.
Mm,
I thought that to be quite interesting, especially okay. So looking at it from a royal, quote unquote, a royal standpoint, the 32nd degree is called what? The sublime prince of the royal secret, right?
hmm
And then especially even since my quote unquote ascent to the 32nd degree, I found myself to even get closer to divinity based on the teachings that lead up to that. But I also wanted to take it a whole another direction, right? So I've also noticed that up to the 32nd degree, there are, I guess you could say, 7 stages, if you will. So you would go first through third, which is 3.
hmm
Then you would go the Lodge of Perfection. Then you would go the Council of the Princes of Jerusalem. Then the Rose Croix. or the Rose Croix, depending, I guess, not really sure which one is correct. And then, of course, the consistory with the 33rd being quote unquote honorary because it used to be. I read this. I did not know this. The 33rd used to only be reserved for SGIG, but because not every Mason in the Scottish Rite would become an SGIG, they then made that 33rd an honorary, similar to the virtual past master degree. Not everybody would actually become a master of the lodge, so then they would have this degree on the York Rite side, which is the virtual past master. So those brothers who did not actually become a master of the lodge would then still, I guess, get the information and just for the most part get some type of understanding about what it meant to be the master of the lodge, as well as the duties that come with that.
Yes.
But those seven, they also go to the seven chakras, which at the top, just like the 32nd is at the top, so is the crown chakra at the top. And supposedly once you open the crown chakra, you have then attained all
So what
enlightenment.
are the seven chakras?
I want to get these names right, so
Okay, go
let
ahead.
me look at this.
Right. So yeah, so even Albert Pike. So Albert Pike tried to figure this out too. So and what's funny is he's closer to 1801 than me or you, and then he came out with something like totally off, not off, but totally different than what me and you were discussing. Albert Pike believed that he had ascertained the Scottish Rite double eagle derived from the symbolisms of alchemy.
Hmm.
And I thought that was interesting. Okay. And so I was like, okay, so what does alchemy have to do with the double headed eagle? I didn't find much, to be perfectly honest. It was it's such you would think would be a little bit more written on such an ancient symbol, but I guess with symbolisms, everybody has their own opinions. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry if you had that.
Oh no, no, it's fine. So you would start at the base of the spine, which is Muladhara. Then you move up, and that's red. Then you moved up to the second chakra, which is Savistana. Hope I pronounced that right. Then the third, which is Manipura. The fourth, Anahata. The fifth, Vishuddha. The sixth, Ajna, and the seventh, Sahasrara. So that top chakra, Sahasrara, your crown chakra, they said once all these are fully open, because you have to open them in succession,
Hmm.
when you get to the crown chakra, you are fully enlightened. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people, especially non-Masons, who would think that once you get to the 32nd degree, oh, now you're the master of all knowledge. You know so much. So I thought that was a kind of a cool juxtaposition. Just the fact that there are, like I said, seven stages, as
Hmm.
well as there are seven chakras to get to highest point in, quote unquote,
Interesting.
the highest point in Masonry.
Well, see, and I was when I had you had a lot more luck than I did when it came to the to that part of it. I kept hitting on historical, and maybe just because I lean historical. So I was looking at, well, how did they get the crest? How did Frederick the Great get this crest? So for all we don't know, Prussia is Germany, Poland, and Russia was all one thing, and so they called it Prussia. And so he got his crest because it was two kingdoms, meaning two different type of kingdoms. The crest of the double eagle, and so I was like, okay, so how do we relate that to us? It's the Scottish Rite. If I had a brother walk up to me and say, just join Scottish Rite, what does the double eagle mean? I was like, oh man, honestly, I've never given it much thought, just to be 100% honest with everybody. I was like, it's always been there. So double-headed eagle, I figure it's some growth through knowledge, through experience to me. It's like light and experience. The Scottish Rite teaches you, and you bring yourself as you are, and then it also teaches you along the way. What do you got? Like you got something.
As soon as you said two kingdoms, I immediately thought northern jurisdiction, southern jurisdiction.
I can see that too. Thing is, with that though, the double-head eagle was before the northern jurisdiction.
Ah,
Northern jurisdiction came not too far after it, but already had it. And it's like going back to more and I went through even through the degrees too, like trying to find, where it mentioned it. And the Scottish Rite has lots of different symbols, like the pelican feeding its young. I've heard that related to where if for those brothers who or our guests, if you pull up the pelican feeding its young, it usually plucking itself, that could mean many things. The Christians look at that as a pelican as a symbol of Jesus. I can also see that as a member of a mother or a father figure sacrificing himself or his young to feed the young when there is no food, um, almost like a cornucopia, giving life, blood, or life to others from self-sacrifice. And so, oddly enough, the double-headed eagle seems a little more difficult. Oddly enough, it's like okay, the eagle, strength. I keep thinking of America, like you brought up that strength, honor, power, prestige, beauty, courage,
Immortality is one.
immortality. Yeah, immortality is a big one. And I guess we can relate that to ourselves. Maybe, okay, the double-headed eagle, one head is immortality, but also with rebirth, I guess. I don't know. It just
Funny that you say that because
okay.
that was definitely symbolically what it also meant. Toe staff was also a symbol of rebirth. It definitely was. I'm trying to bring it up really fast if I can.
Also, some other symbols in there while you're looking at that is roses. A rose uh, has has been a symbol in many other belief systems all over the world. The Scottish Rite uses the roses, rose croix, like you were saying. Like I said, a lot of people relate that to Christ. I believe Buddhists have the rose and some of their stuff as well. The rose is kind of
Uh,
universal.
lotus flower.
Lotus flower. I'm sorry. Yeah,
The lotus.
lotus flower. And so flowers have also known as rebirth and renewal.
And look, I didn't even realize I said it, but the snake symbolizes fertility, rebirth, renewal, and even immortality.
Yeah, the snake, or serpent, you can go dragon with that as well. I believe in the Orient, the dragon is known as to be wise and powerful as well, and long lasting life. Yeah, the serpent just got a bad rap. Just he always got that one guy,
Right,
that screws everything up.
right.
But yeah, the double headed eagle is something that I guess I wish somebody write a paper on. That'd be a good paper to somebody to write about, talk about. And let me ask you this. So how is, and so we both have different ages within the Scottish Rite. You're fairly new. I've been in for a while. So when you look at a symbol, what do you first do? Because when you first look at how do you accept it? What do you take from it?
Well, when I first look at a symbol, I try to, since I've read so much, I try to think, is there a book that I already have? Have I come across it before? If not, the first thing that I do is to go and see the first time this symbol was recorded in history. Who saw it first? Who spoke about it first, things of that nature. And then I'll kind of just try to track it through history just to see how it's has the meaning transformed, like the telephone game. Did it start with this and then now it's this, or has the meaning always held through time? That's pretty much how I do systems. And I mean symbols. And I'm actually okay, just refresh my memory when you said alchemy. So a lot of people when they view alchemy, of course, the very first thing they're gonna want to do is to see, how can I take something basic and turn it into gold? Because when you first look up alchemy, like that's the thing that everybody wants to do.
Yes.
But then that's not, you know what? And honestly, I'm not even sure how that form of alchemy came about because alchemy was originally what they would call soul alchemy. And soul alchemy is literally the transformation of soul. Basically, what masonry is. We take good men and we make them better. That's what soul alchemy is. Soul alchemy takes you from wherever you're starting from and literally turns you into a person better than when you first encountered soul alchemy. So you're literally just it's just the journey to become a better version of yourself. So that's when you said alchemy, I forgot that point, but I'm glad I came back to that. Glad because that's the point of alchemy.
Yeah, it's what I've learned in the Scottish Rite, particularly in the last several years. I started taking the master craftsman program and learning different things. Um, and one of the things I've noticed is when it comes to symbols in the Scottish Rite, or even in the Blue Lodges or York Rite, um, if there's a specific meaning they're trying to get across, they'll tell you within the degree, or they'll point it out to you. Say this color means this. This symbol means that. But there are a lot of symbols that are just thrown out there. such as even colors and letters, because they'll repeat the same colors, and you're like, wow, color on this other degree, gold meant this, now it means that. And so even letters, I've seen letters, colors, even what they call the pigpen cipher, um, where they use it to communicate something to us. But I guess when it comes to symbolism that isn't communicated to us, it's like you take it, like you said, that's a good idea to research it. And then as you're researching, it comes to a new meaning to you. You're like, okay, such as the triangle or scales and measures. Scales and measures, most people think of justice, right? You think of the lady, the blind, justice, but also the Egyptians, their belief system of they would believe you take your heart out and they weigh it against a feather.
When I think of scales, that's what I well, possibly the first may be Libra, because my wife's a Libra.
Mhm.
But then also I think of Ma'at, the goddess Ma'at. Yeah, she's the one. So after you pass, who was it? I believe it's Anubis. Anubis guards your soul through the underworld to Ma'at, where they would take your heart and put it on one scale and her feather on another scale. And if your heart, yeah, I believe it's lighter than her feather, then you get admitted into the afterlife. If it's heavier, then you're going to the underworld.
On the world.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, the scales and measures, and you have columns. Columns, strength and beauty. I mean, King Solomon's temple had columns. I mean, anybody that's seen any kind of historical picture, columns are always elaborate. I mean, go to Washington D.C. I mean,
Right.
there's columns everywhere, huge ones. Even let's talk. This one's come up in conversation: skulls and bones. You see a skull, and you see either crossbones or at least some bones underneath it. I mean, the pirates, and I've heard the theory of pirates being linked to Freemasons and or at least to Templars. So the link to Templars and pirates was really interesting. Templars were hunted down and destroyed their navy. They had a navy. It just disappeared overnight. They scattered. Well, if you about several years ago, I was in the Houston Museum of Natural Science, and I'm walking. They had a pirate exhibit, the richest pirate. The ship was called the Widow.
Mm.
And so I'm walking through, and I look down, and all of a sudden I see the word Freemason. And I'm in a pirate. I mean, there's all this gold and everything, and the ship was recovered off the East Coast somewhere. It escapes me. But anyways, they found a pewter plate with the square and compasses carved into it. This particular pewter plate was, I believe, 10 years before the Grand Lodge of England was even formed. So, the question remains: A, was one of the pirates on this ship a Freemason? Or B, did he kill or take the plate of plunder of a Freemason? Either way, the square and compasses was an established symbol for Freemasonry. And so we go back to the symbolism of these pirates. And here's the crazy pirates: they had a strict code. Everybody shared. Everybody had equal say. If the captain didn't have a bed, nobody got a bed. Or if you were a second mate and I was a second mate and you didn't have it, I didn't get it. If you lost a finger, I mean you lost an arm, you got paid like medical leave for that. And so you start looking at that like, how did they come up with that? You pirates, you see Pirates of the Caribbean, and you're like, what is going on here? But then you start seeing that, and you're like, well, wait a minute, how did this pirate know all to do this? And so the kind of back to the symbolism thing, the square compasses that Freemasonry is known of, and then of course the double-headed eagle, the Scottish Rite is little skull and bones. So back to that, the pirates, skull and bones have been recognized as a symbol of Jacques de Molay, head of the Templars. When you see that, so you're thinking, okay, and pirates use that as their flag for the Jolly Roger. That's a weird connection, isn't it?
That is. And it reminds me of, I don't know if it's still on there, on Netflix. There is a short series. I think it's only like 2 seasons or something like that. It's called Night, but Night with a K, like so Sir Night.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen the show, but I've seen the promo for it.
You should watch that
It's pretty good.
because
What's
it's
the name of it for our audience?
Nightfall.
Nightfall. Okay,
Like
like a night.
Knight.
Okay.
Fall. And so it's about the Knights Templar. Like that's actually what it's about. And it pretty much starts with the Knights Templar on ships, and they have found the well, they found what do they call that cup?
Not the Holy Grail. The
Yes.
Holy Grail. Okay.
Yes, they have found the Holy Grail, and they are taking the Holy Grail from one location to another for safekeeping. And they use their navy. There was a bunch of Knights Templar ships. They are taking it and there was a knight named Landry, and basically one of the ships gets blown up. They lose the Holy Grail like at the beginning, and so they end up in France in alliance with the King of France. Basically, like they were allowed to, they were very much so accommodated being staying in France,
Yeah.
and but they are still in search of the Holy Grail since they ended up losing. I'm not going to spoil it because I was about to go into it, but just as it pertains to the Navy aspect, that Nightfall, the show, it definitely shows that they had a Navy and that they were definitely seafarers, to say the least.
So, I want to tell you something really weird. If you look at pirate history, early pirates attacked Catholic country ships, Spain, uh, France. Well, if you look at who betrayed the Templars, the Catholic Church and the country of France.
Right.
So all of a sudden, these pirates start attacking and looting these ships that were Catholic in origin or countries with Catholic backing. So you're like, huh? I wonder where it's all it's all subjective. It's nothing concrete, but it's like, huh? If you follow the dots, what a coincidence that is.
And honestly, I could see that because so after just trying to adopt the mindset of a Knights Templar of that time, which is nearly impossible, but just for the sake of the conversation, I could see Knights Templar being so devout in what they were doing and had such a belief in what they were doing because a lot of people don't know. Like in this, it shares this on the show to become a Knights Templar, you had to give up all, like, even if you were royalty, you had to give all of your money, gold, property, everything to the organization of Knights Templar to actually become one. But even if you were royalty, that doesn't mean that you start out as a Knights Templar. No, you start out on, I believe it was a squire. You start out on the very first level like anybody else, and you work your way up. And they had on like these black cloth sacks, and you work your way up to be a Knights Templar, to wear the white robe with the big cross on it, to earn your sword and your armor and everything. So it
Mhm.
didn't matter who you were, you still start at the bottom, and you have to give up all of your wealth and everything to actually join them. So to have such a belief in cause of Knights Templar, but then and they were a Catholic knighthood at that time, then to be betrayed by the very people who you were quote unquote under and had allegiance to, be betrayed by them and to be named a heretic, just all these different things and have your leader burned at the cross.
Oh yeah.
That I could definitely see that forcing them into, well, not forcing, but well, yeah, forcing
Mm.
them to be a pirate into now, no, we don't want to be under the King of England. We
Yeah,
don't want
kind
to
of
be
a
under Catholic Church anymore. We're going to be on these seas and we're going to do whatever it is that we want to do because we've done it the other way before and we saw that didn't work.
yeah.
So I could definitely see that.
So, and symbolism is also in everybody's faith. Faith, like the Book of Revelation. I mean, you talk about symbolism. Oh my gosh. I mean, you could probably spend 10 years and not understand a single half of it. Always, so you hear symbols of light or candles. And I think this probably is universal against, or not against, through all religions and all different belief systems. Candle is just isn't light in a room, adding light to where you can read a book by. I believe candles or light is also is knowledge. There's a symbol where it's a part of Revelation where there's a man in a room, he's sitting and there's candles all around him. And so this isn't made that there's actually a man sitting in a room with candles. That'd be ridiculous. But what it is, this man is surrounded by candles. He's giving out information. He's giving out knowledge, and so you also have the lamp of knowledge, which is also in a lot of different, mainly Greek, where it's light projecting from it. You're learning things, and I think that's a lot in masonry too. Anytime you see light, you hear any kind of rays of the sun. It's I believe, in my opinion, it's knowledge. It's passing knowledge of life, how to become a better man, husband, father, and so on. What what are your thoughts on the candle lights or the light?
Um, I could definitely see light being synonymous with wisdom and or knowledge, and I definitely say that because I mean it just goes throughout history. Like whenever somebody has a great thought, what happens? Light bulb, right? They say, of course, none of us were there, but at the dawn of creation, Big Bang, what was that? Out of eternal darkness came light. So that would, in my opinion, that would kind of make light synonymous with God, who would be the great wisdom bearer, who knows all. God is omniscient. So God knows all. So I could definitely see light being synonymous with wisdom, with knowledge. It makes a lot of sense.
It does, and it's if you kind of figure, you know, somebody learning to read. I always kind of look at this when if you don't know how to read, everything's all jumbled, right? But then when you learn to read, somebody teaches you something, and I also relate this to symbolism as well. When you finally learn what the symbol is, or you learn how to read, things start making sense, and it goes from darkness to light, where it's just not just darkness. It's now like everything comes into focus, and so, darkness reigned upon the planet before God said, "Let there be light." And so, fog was across the earth, and he said, "Light." Boom. What happens when the sun comes out? What happens to fog? It goes,
Dissipates.
dissipates. Light, like you're saying. And so, especially in today's world, a lot of people who act out, I think, and cause crimes, they're not educated, or not even educated, don't have that light of God in them, or a light of some kind of belief that gives them. And so they're in darkness. They're deep in darkness, and how important it is for, I guess, people like us in Freemasonry or in our faith promote that light, because that keeps us, I guess, keeps the world at peace. At least in my opinion, if everybody practices their faith, it does keep the peace.
Yes, if people actually go by the book that they say that they do, then it definitely should keep the peace. That's why, for the life of me, I can't really understand the cause of so many wars and things that, I mean, I understand they've been about money and capitalism and this and that and this and that, but there is no holy book that that suggests that you should be a capitalist, that you should be a consumer. Jesus had no money. He even suggested to his apostles that whenever you go and you preach the gospel, he didn't send them with any money. He sent them with what they had, and he said, "Lodge wherever you can, eat what they give you. That's it." Even in Buddhism, there's a book. Come on, come to me. The Diamond Sutra, where Buddha literally wore the same robes every day, and he literally went around begging for food daily. And he did this because he said that it kept him humble. If you didn't have, and he encouraged any of his followers, people who would listen to, I believe they're called sutras, his oh no, sorry, his Dharma talk, people who listen to his Dharma talks and they wanted to follow his guide to enlightenment, you should do what I'm doing. You don't worry about these worldly possessions. You're after enlightenment. If you're after enlightenment, then and they wore certain robes, patch robes, and these different things. They meant a certain thing, but you put these robes on, you wash your feet, and you go with your bowl and your spoon door to door, and you see who will feed you. So even and he started out as royalty. His mother and his father, they were I believe he was a prince. So his father and his mother were a king and a queen. Yet he settled for this humble life in the search for enlightenment. So there is no that I've come across. There is no holy book that suggests that you should be all about money and this and that, because none of that actually leads to peace or the knowledge or the wisdom that you're in search of.
Well, and that leads us to our final point where we can close up. And this is a good one. You just made me think of it listening to that, what you were just saying. We are symbols, you and I. We're symbols to our children and to the world. And like you said, no holy book tells you to go out and make money and do all this. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But we are the symbols. So, in today's heavy and, uh, heavy political climate via politics, or any kind of politics in life, the way I believe God, America was divinely founded. And there's a part of the Declaration of Independence that hits me to the core. And I'll read this one part. And it's the end of it. And it tells you the mindset. You figure when they signed the Declaration of Independence, they were arguing constantly. It wasn't like everybody was high five and, yeah, we all hate King George. It was people from different backgrounds, from the city guys to the country guys, that came together. And this one little paragraph says, "Our most basic common link." Oh, I'm sorry. I get the wrong thing with JFK. And for the support of this declaration, we, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honors. And I think if more Americans, all of us, take that more serious with each other, where it's like, we can disagree, but we can all be symbols to each other. And for those who are still in darkness, who are practicing hate or hurting each other, if we can show that, we'll help each other out. That's why I like the Freemasons. We help each other out. If you can call me, I'm there. And I don't care what race, what religion, what political affiliation, it doesn't matter. We can disagree about the most common things. Okay. And I think the Declaration of Independence on that particular part of it, where they pledge to each other their sacred honor and their fortunes to one another, and it shows it. So, well, any final thoughts from you before we wrap it up?
Just want to read this final
Yeah,
thing
go ahead.
about what Greek scholars said about the double eagle. So, Greek scholars have tried to make links with ancient symbols. The eagle was a common design representing power in ancient city-states, while there was an implication of a dual eagle concept in the tale that Zeus left two eagles fly east and west from the ends of the world, eventually meeting in the Delphi, thus proving it to be the center of the earth.
And with that, brothers and guests out there, I appreciate everybody listening to the Houston Valley Scottish Rite podcast. Thank you, Brother Saunier, for coming on out. And everybody out there, enjoy the summer. Hope everybody's having fun, and we'll see you next month. God bless.